Get rid of Julius Randle, Mr. Bricklayer, because he can't. I can't stand him. The guy, every time he's on the court, or if he's not complaining that doesn't get the ball enough, he's hitting more bricks than hitting shots. So I don't want Julius Randle.
I like Julius, but I don't like him in his current role as a max player or like the best player on a team. Like,
Right.
you're not going to win anything. You saw in that series against the Hawks, you're not going to win anything with Julius Randle as your best player. He needs to be like your third or fourth best player on a championship team. That's what Julius Randle is. He can be a good player at times, but you can't ask him to do everything. And on this Knicks team, they ask him to do a lot. And, as we saw, he came up pretty small in that postseason run against the Hawks, and he needs some help. He needs some help.
Absolutely. And I think the interesting thing with the Knicks in this offseason is what are they going to do drafting at 11? I hear they're trying to move up to number 4 or 5. There's a player that they're really intrigued with.
Mathurin from Arizona.
The kid from Arizona. Could they move up to 4 or 5 to get that player? I mean, and is he going to turn out to be the player that can change this franchise around? This franchise has done very well in the last couple of years drafting. Obi Toppin looks like when he does play, he's a good player. Emmanuel Quigley could be a good player. I think he's more of a 6-man. And R.J. Barrett has turned into slowly a superstar player for this team. So they need to figure out what this team identity is. If the Knicks can figure it out, I think the Knicks could compete in the Eastern Conference, a very weak Eastern Conference. With me, it's Miami, Milwaukee, and the Celtics. That's about it. I don't think I'm not worried about Philadelphia. I'm not worried about any of those other teams. I think it's really a 3-team NBA Eastern Conference, race.
Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox.
Oh well, that was Phil Jackson. Okay, Phil Jackson ruined the Knicks. Okay.
James Dolan continues to ruin the Knicks.
Well, yeah, that's it.
Why doesn't he just go play with JD in the straight shots and leave the basketball to somebody else?
Well, he hasn't said anything. He's letting Leon Rose run that team.
Yeah, but into the ground or where are we running it to?
Hey, RJ is becoming a player, so maybe you're right. I don't know where the Knicks are going to be 5-6 years from now. I can only hope that this team is going to be run the right way, something that they haven't been run really since Pat Riley and Jeff Van Gundy. Van Gundy.
Not Stan Van. One of the Van Gundy.
Well, he was a part of that coaching staff for a little while, Stan Van Gundy. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And so was a guy that's right now coaching our team right now.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Tibbs. The meniscus tearing taskmaster.
Yes, a guy that obviously doesn't work very good with young players, and he likes these veteran players. And hopefully Thibodeau realizes that these young players are the wave of the future, not the older veteran players that have just completely died down in the second half of the season every single year, even with the Chicago Bulls, with Minnesota, and now with the Knicks. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we'll see what happens to the Knicks. I'm so pessimistic on them right now. They haven't shown me anything really to be excited about. Yeah, it's just I don't mean to be so negative, but it's just sort of realistic at this point until I see some sort of shift and change. Yes, RJ looks pretty good. That's a nice little piece, but Emmanuel Quigley's okay. I know they maybe have some guys that they've drafted last year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. They just need to sort of shift some things around, and they really need to find a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while since they've had like a legitimate, really good run your offense type of point guard. Obviously, I loved Patrick Ewing back in the day. He's my guy, but they really haven't had a good solid point guard and somebody who wasn't a turnstile defensively.
So I want to go back to the NBA Finals, and we see these teams the way they're built. They're a lot of the homegrown players. They make some trades here and there, but most of the teams, they're not the LeBron Heat or anything like that. So do you think there's going to be a shift to a permanent way of, you see the Bucks, the Suns, they have 2 stars and they'll build the depth around it, rather than you're seeing with a lot of these super teams, like the Heat, the Warriors back in the day, now trying the Nets and the Lakers that haven't done as well. Do you think there'll be a shift back to that kind of formula again?
I think it's a good point, man. I think that's sort of the way that things are shifting if you look at the NBA right now. But I think when it comes down to it is you just need good players. And you look at the Warriors for a good example. They have some really good players, but they have a lot of guys who fit within their team and they know their roles. And I think that's kind of where you're going of, yeah, you got to have a couple of star players, and then you have to have guys that know their roles, who will do exactly what they need. They will not just jack up threes and get three happy and things like that. They know their roles. You can play around them. I mean, you look at the Mavericks where you had Porzingis and you had Luka and it just didn't work. So, yeah, maybe we're getting back to the Batman and Robin and then just sort of build around everybody else. Maybe we're getting back to the Jordan days, Jordan and Pippen, and then there's, Rodman and Kerr and, surround them with shooters and just do your thing. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. That seems to be the way that the NBA is sort of shifting back now.
We are talking to ESPN Chattanooga radio show host Greg Larnerd. Last question for us before we let you go. We really appreciate you joining us and giving us the time. I know you got a woman over there. What happened to your finger, by the way? I see you have something wrong with your finger. What happened?
She's not here actually. She's away. She went back home to Minnesota at this point. So I've got the place to myself for right now, which is kind of cool. But yeah, speaking of my girl, this is what happened. She stepped on my pinky and broke it.
How does somebody step on your pinky and break it?
Well, we were fooling around in a non-sexual way.
I got you.
Goofing around, and I had somehow ended up on the ground. And my hand is, outstretched, or I don't even remember how it was. But she stepped back and happened to step right on that one little knuckle right there at the top. And didn't fully break it. It was just a little fractured. But after she did it, she was like, "Stop being so dramatic. You're fine, yada, yada,
Don't you love when they do that?
Oh, certainly do. And, if any of us did that to any of our significant others, we would never hear the end of it.
You're absolutely right.
So, yeah, she kind of she felt bad after the fact when she's like, "Oh shit, it is actually broken." Whoops, sorry about that.
That's all right, man.
It is actually broken. So, it is what it is. Yeah.
All right.
She did that.
So, last question, and. Obviously, I don't know if you're a football fan. I don't know who you root on. Who's your favorite football team?
I am a Green Bay Packers fan.
Okay, and I know he mentioned that you're a Green Bay Packer fan. What are your thoughts this offseason? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers taking the biggest contract in NFL history, $50 million a year for the next 2 years. They didn't draft they did draft a wide receiver in the second round. But they didn't really get any of the top wide receivers that they were probably trying to gun for because all those guys got drafted in the teens. What are your thoughts with the offseason the Green Bay Packers have had?
Well, I'm happy to hear today and I went back and I had to rewatch Aaron Rodgers' little press conference that he did at his locker after practice, and he's there, and it's good to have him back there, and That's honestly my guy. I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. I went from growing up following Brett Favre right into Aaron Rodgers. So I'm very nervous as to what comes next with the Green Bay Packers at their quarterback position. But obviously, am I happy to see Davante go? Absolutely not. Like, I thought if Aaron was coming back, no way Davante's leaving. I always in the back of my mind and would tell anybody who was willing to listen that Aaron was going to come back and not leave the Packers like everybody was sort of speculating and talking about and things like that. And just knowing him and following his career as well as I have, I just had a feeling that he was going to come back, but I didn't think that, and there was any way that if he came back, Davante wasn't going to come back because they thought those guys were tight and they had unfinished business and they did the whole Last Dance thing. And who would have thought that, the Last Dance thing would pertain more to Davante than it did Aaron, but sad to see Davante go. I love Tay. A little nervous for this wide receiving corp that they have going into this season, but Matt LaFleur is a very creative offensive guy, and maybe this will allow them to open up the offense a little bit more because Aaron was talking today, and he said, I'd be lying if I said that 80% of the passing plays that we ran were revolving around 17. Now it's got to be around 13, and it's got to be around Randall Cobb, and it's got to be around Christian Watson and Romeo and some other guys that are there, Bobby Tunyon and Mercedes Lewis and, the running backs. And they're going to have to get more creative. And I think this team is sort of starting to shift to the mindset of, hey, look, if we can kind of do what the Broncos did in Peyton Manning's last Super Bowl, and Aaron is far removed from that, and obviously, knock on wood, he doesn't get into some sort of injury problem like that. But they are of the mindset of like, look, let's continue to pound the rock on the ground. We have two great running backs. Let's build up the defense. Anytime Aaron Rodgers has had a defense, the year they won the Super Bowl, had an incredible defense. They had to deal with Donald Driver going out in the Super Bowl, Jordy Nelson and Jerome what's his name?
James
Jones. There we go. Thank you, Jerome James. I was thinking of the freaking Knicks we were talking about. Jerome James. James Jones.
Overpaid Jerome James.
Big time. And so those guys dropping passes, but the defense was really, really good. And you have to rely on the back-to-back reigning MVP, Aaron Rodgers, will be able to figure it out on the field with whomever he's throwing the ball to. I don't know why, and maybe this is just me being a Packers fan, but as I was listening to Rodgers talk about Sammy Watkins, and I know I am a big fantasy football guy, so I know the ups and mostly downs of Sammy Watkins. I would never draft that guy, but he'd always have these incredible games a couple of times a year. It's usually the first game of the season, and then he gets hurt, and then he's nowhere to be found. But there's something that just I feel when I heard him talking about it today, that maybe this is the time for Sammy Watkins. Maybe this is the year he finally stays healthy. He's with, one of the best quarterbacks that he's ever been with, if not the best quarterback that he's ever been with outside of Patrick Mahomes. Maybe if he stays healthy, the opportunity here to be that clear-cut number one wide receiver. If he can stay healthy, maybe he surprises us and has a big season because we know he has big talent. I'm just hoping that he can stay on the football field to show it. And obviously, he's got his boy Cobby there, who he trusts a lot. I don't know how much left he's got in the tank, and sort of looks like Jordy Nelson at the end of his career. The name is good, but the production isn't really that good. So I'm a little nervous about the wide receiving core, but I love what they're doing on defense. I love bringing Rich Bisaccia in as the special teams coordinator, especially how bad our special teams have been over the last couple of years. Horrible, dude. It's been so bad. So that's great. I'm glad that they're finally addressing some things. I'm glad Aaron Rodgers spoke his mind to the front office last season, got things cleared up. I think he just really wanted the respect that somebody with his stature deserves within an organization. He's been there longer than anybody. I think that's really all it was about. And I'm excited for the season, and I like the direction of this team, the way that they're going. Even though I'm nervous about the wide receivers, I still have trust that Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur will be able to make something work offensively enough for them to win games if their special teams are better with Rich Bisaccia and their defense is just so vaunted. The secondary, all three levels. They've always lacked at the linebacker position, and to get Devondre Campbell off of the scrap heap last year and him becoming all-pro and then to be able to re-sign him, that was one thing. I know I love Davante and I wish he came back, but allowing him going allowed us to get extra draft capital and also allowed us to bring back Devondre Campbell and Rasul Douglas, and those were two huge pieces last year with the defense. So I'm excited. All in all, fellas, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think you should be. I think you should.
I was about to say, I always thought the linebackers were always a bigger need than the wide receivers for a while too. When they traded up 2 years ago, I thought it was going to be for Patrick Queen, and
that's what I wanted. That's
that's what I thought exactly was going to happen.
Queen instead of in Jordan Love.
Well, yeah. At this rate, Randall Cobb might be the backup quarterback at this rate.
I think the Packers are in very good shape. I think the reason why they lost against San Francisco was because of their special teams. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers. I know a lot of people.
Yeah, Trey.
I know a lot of people like to throw him under the bus because Aaron Rodgers didn't make the common throws that you usually make. It was cold, and yes, it does usually do that in Green Bay, but both teams have to deal with it. And by the way, Jimmy Garoppolo was horrible in that game. They still won because of the special teams. So you're right.
Yes, we have Trey Larkins, a guy that hosts a show on our network, was biggest Aaron Rodgers fan. We're just blaming him for everything. In that game.
Yes, of course.
I would never go out there and be so egregious to blame Aaron Rodgers for everything. Was he maybe forcing the ball to 17 a little bit? Did they not, have the right adjustments in that game, in that offensive game plan? I absolutely think so. I think, they should have realized, look, they're taking away 17. Let's go somewhere else instead of they continue to try to force feed him the football because that's what they've done all year. So I need to see a little bit more out of Matt LaFleur this year. I'm hoping he gets his creative bag and is saying, look, we don't have 17 anymore. We need to get more creative, spread the love a little bit, and start to trust other guys within this offense. Look, I think Sammy Watkins, I think Randall Cobb, I think Alan Lazard, and I think some of the younger guys have a great opportunity here to really step up and be that number one guy. He talked about it today, talking about Alan Lazard, how he's been sort of the dirty work type of wide receiver, and now he's got an opportunity to be a number one receiver within this offense. So we'll see what guys step up and take that opportunity.
Twitter claimed best blocking wide receiver in football, Alan Lazard.
Yeah,